Thank you, Dr. Price. People don't know this. Larry and I were once on KITV News together many years ago before he became such a huge radio success. He was doing political commentary, and I was doing sports commentary as Dr. Sports. And that was a long time ago, but thank you so much. I'm so honored that the committee has inducted me in the Hawaii Sports Hall of Fame. And it's a great honor to come in with Sonny Garcia and Randy Rarick as well, two great surfing legends. I think we'll always be linked together with this, and thank you so much for this great honor. I think it's always a little strange to be in a Sports Hall of Fame, not as an athlete. I don't think anybody grows up dreaming that someday they'll be an organizer of a sporting event and be in a Hall of Fame. The Honolulu Marathon, as you can see from the video, and I want to thank our video team for doing that, we knew we were going to have a tough video act to follow here with one of the greatest surfers ever, surfing pipeline, and that kind of said, well, they're going to show me writing checks? And this is not going to be that exciting. But, Dr. Price asked earlier, and Larry mentioned the marathon, how do we get people to do this thing? How do we get so many people? Well, running, and the marathon in particular, is really the ultimate individual sport and really an individual achievement. But putting a marathon on is really a team sport. And we have a great team. And so I'd like to have all the folks with the marathon, if they could stand up real quick here. Dick Sutton and John Cross, Dennis, Rick Taniguchi, JJ, Tommy Kono. Tommy Kono is one of the pioneers of the Honolulu Marathon. And of course, Ron and Jeanette Chun, who have been, and interesting, 5 of us have been together now for over 30 years. And so, and we're still speaking to each other most of the time. And again, it was a great honor to be inducted, and I'm sure that the people in East Honolulu who get stuck in traffic had no vote in this. And the Nauru Tower people, I'm sure were not consulted about this. Can you imagine those 5 a.m. fireworks and cannon blasts going off? But when I took over the marathon, it was a great event. The pioneers, the people that had, in the early days of the marathon, people like Tommy Kono and Jack Scaff had done a great job. But the marathon world was changing as we hit the 1980s, and professionalism had come into running, and the sport was changing. And the Honolulu Marathon was one of the fortunate events that kind of grew with the times, and we managed to become extremely big. One of the ways we did this was partnering with Japan, and I think one of the great heroes of the Honolulu Marathon, one of the great builders from Japan, Mr. Masao Inagaki, is the founder of Asatsu Advertising Agency. And he committed the resources of his agency to the Honolulu Marathon starting in about 1985. And that's one of the reasons we grew. And we have offices in Japan. It's been a great partnership between Hawaii and Japan. And last year we had about 14,000 people from Japan. So Honolulu Marathon, it's really been an amazing thing for all of us. Now, we have a saying in running, and I know my son, Sebastian, I'd like to thank my family for being here. Olivia, my daughter, Sebastian, my wife, Helena. My son, Zach, couldn't be here tonight. We have a saying in running that Sebastian doesn't always listen to, which is the race is in front of you, which means you don't want to look back too much in a race, because almost certainly somebody's gaining on you. So we have that saying, the race in front of us, and I think that's how I look at the Honolulu Marathon. I've been doing this for 28 years as the president, 33 years overall, and I think we have many more years to go. We keep looking ahead. We keep looking forward to that next race. We figure at some point we're really going to figure out how to do this. The race gets better every year, and we really enjoy doing it. And Larry did ask, how do you get people to run the marathon, especially so many people? One thing we learned a long time ago is a marathon is a series of individual stories. And everyone's story is valid. We used to get some criticism, believe it or not, when the race got really big. Initially, about 1992, we went from 14,000 to 30,000 in 1 year. And that does create problems. It creates a lot of traffic, a lot of people wondering, why are people out there 14 hours, 15 hours? What's the point of this? What does this prove? And I think, my own running background, which is certainly not Hall of Fame caliber, my first run I ever took was when I was a freshman in college. I had, played baseball and basketball, and I tried to run from my dorm down to a place at the University of Michigan called the Michigan Union. And it was probably, I don't know, Todd might know, it couldn't be more than 1.5 miles, and I couldn't make it. And I thought that's pretty pathetic for somebody 18 years old. So my own running story was that I was someone that woke up one day and said, I need to do something to improve my life, to improve my health, to make myself a better person. And in so doing, although I certainly wasn't thinking that way at 18 years old, I could maybe help other people make the world a better place. You're not thinking that way at 18 years old. So the impetus to change comes from within, and running has provided for me that vehicle. And I ran my first marathon in 1973, which is around the same time the Honolulu Marathon started. I ran Glass City Marathon in Toledo, Ohio, and I finished 81st out of about 162 people. So my background in running was very humble. And as I got better and became exposed to some great athletes, I think all of us still maintain that. The Honolulu Marathon was always called the People's Marathon, which I always said is a euphemism for we don't have any money. But in a sense, it's always been for the people. It's not about the fastest runner. It's about everybody's individual story. And everybody's story is equally valid. And as we've grown bigger and bigger, and Larry, we actually, in addition to a T-shirt now, we actually give a malasada when you finish. So you can... So we have really, really opened up the checkbook now at the end of the marathon. So the marathon is a series of individual stories, and we don't judge, and I think that's also a good metaphor for life. Everybody has their own story and has achieved their own goals. The marathon is a unique template for which people can try to achieve some goals. To me, it's not really about running the marathon so much as setting out a goal and taking it step by step and reaching that goal. And although the goal can always seem like it's kind of getting away from you, the marathon is really unique in what it teaches you or what it reveals about you more accurately. And I used to say what it reveals about me when I ran my first marathon was I was pretty weak. So what it reveals to you is like many things in life, sometimes difficult, sometimes you don't like to see it, but ultimately you learn from that and grow and improve. So we've had many, many great champions. We've been proud to know them. We've had Olympic champions. We've had world record holders. We've had some of the greatest runners in the world. But that's not really totally what the marathon's about. It's about the individual story. We had a champion back in 2011. In my opinion, the greatest champion. And that's not Wilson Kipsang, who set the world record. This is a Japanese girl. She's 11 years old. And her name, her name was Wakana Ueda. She was 11 years old. She ran the marathon in 2011. She was our last finisher. Took her 14 hours, 3 minutes, and 12 seconds. And what makes it even more interesting is she was blind. So I found this on the Huffington Post. Don't usually quote the Huffington Post, but I thought they did a good job of writing this. So I'm going to read this to you, and I think this really sums up the Honolulu Marathon and why so many people find meaning in this and want to do it. Winning isn't everything. Sometimes it's even entirely beside the point. Such was the case when Wakana Ueda, a blind 11-year-old from Japan, crossed the finish line of the Honolulu Marathon after 14 hours, 3 minutes, and 12 seconds on the course. Competing in her first marathon on Sunday, Wakana almost dropped out due to physical exhaustion. When Wakana crossed the finish line, she immediately embraced her mother with tears in her eyes. That the top finishers had come and gone hours earlier hardly seemed relevant. In fact, the accomplishment of the men's and women's winners seemed downright insignificant in comparison. So that's what the marathon is. It's a chance for people to realize their goals, realize their dreams, take on a challenge, overcome obstacles, and achieve that success. It's becoming increasingly difficult, more difficult in this day and age. So I'd like to dedicate this honor, which is a tremendous honor, and it's a sports honor, because we've always felt the Honolulu Marathon was a sporting event. So I'd like to share this with all the people in the marathon and all the 653,000 finishers of the Honolulu Marathon. And I'd also like to dedicate this to someone out there right now. I don't know who he or she is, but someone out there is going to wake up maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, and they're going to decide they want to change their life. And that may involve running, it may involve something else, but they're going to take that first step towards a better life and a better future and a better community. Thank you.